Now I want to chat about leaving time. Now, I love the parallels in this book between human relationships and elephants.
Elephants, right.
When did your fascination with elephants start?
Pretty much when I started writing this
Yeah.
book. I actually did not start writing about elephants. I started wanting to write about a mother and a daughter. I have 3 children, and my youngest, who is now 19, was getting ready to go to university, and we were going to be empty nesters.
Yeah.
And it really upset me. I didn't think I was going to be so devastated, but I actually was. And I happened to be in a doctor's office reading a magazine, and I came across one sentence that just stopped me cold, and it said, in the wild, an elephant mother and daughter stay together their whole lives until one of them dies. And I thought, oh, why don't we do that? and it really got me thinking, what else do elephants do well that we don't do? And I began to realize that if I wanted to write a mother-daughter story about what it feels like to be left behind, I could weave elephants through it and create a really great metaphor, and also a story about how the people that we love never really leave us, and that was my goal for this book. So once I began to do the research on elephants, I was absolutely blown away by really how intelligent they are, how empathetic they are, how many qualities they have that we usually attribute only to humans. You know, elephants are, as you know, you've heard the memory of an elephant. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, elephants actually have such memory that they suffer sometimes from post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a place called the Elephant Sanctuary, which is where I did part of my research, in Tennessee. And it's where a lot of abused elephants wind up in the States. They basically wind up in the best retirement community in the world.
Yeah.
And they had to institute a no-fly zone, even though the only helicopter that these elephants had ever heard before, the ones that when they heard one that went overhead, they all got really upset. And they instituted a no-fly zone because they were so rattled by the sound of a plane and a helicopter. The only helicopter most of these elephants had ever heard was the one that shot their families around them during the culls in South Africa. Wow. And that was 50 years ago.
Wow.
So they definitely keep something in their minds. You know, their ability to grieve really is what touched me the most deeply, and that features very prominently in the book. We usually think of humans as being the only ones that grieve someone they lose. Elephants that come across the bones of another elephant will get very quiet and somber. Their tails droop, their ears droop, their behavior completely changes. They don't get this way around any other bones, just elephants. They will go back to the site of an elephant's death years after its death, just to do the same thing. They get really quiet and they stay together for a little while as if they're kind of hanging out and thinking about that elephant, and then they go on about their day, kind of like we might go to a gravesite.
Yeah.
They break into researcher facilities and they take the bones researchers are working with and bring them back to the site of that particular elephant's death. There are so many stories that illustrate the very elaborate grief rituals that elephants have, and it has nothing to do with them being in the wild or in captivity. They see it in both places. And it's very hard to watch elephants interact and not anthropomorphize it, not think of them as being maybe just a little bit human.
Yeah. It was interesting because my fascination with elephants started with this book. As I read through the pages, I would turn to my partner and be like, did you know this about elephants?
You're not the only one. Yeah. It's great. Yeah, that's great. And it is. It's really, you know, when you do learn this stuff about them and you see how incredibly special they are pretty remarkable in the animal kingdom. And they do seem to have a level of understanding and cognition and sentience more than a lot of other animals do. It is really devastating to think about the fact that in many parts of Africa they are being poached, and 38,000 elephants are being killed a year for illegal ivory trade, and within 10 years they will all be gone if someone doesn't do something.
Yeah, it's hard to think about. Now, part of the book is set in South Africa. Why did you choose to set it here in South Africa?
Because I love South Africa. I'm probably one of the only authors who's visited as many times as I have. I think this is my 6th time back to South Africa, and it's a beautiful, beautiful country. The people are just as beautiful as the landscape. Plus, you have these incredibly cool animals I don't get to see in my backyard.
I know.
And, so I really do like coming here. I enjoy it. It's a fun stop for me on a book tour, and sometimes it's really nice to give back a little bit. As soon as I knew that Alice was going to be working with elephants, I suppose I could have set her in Thailand, but I really wanted it to be the African elephant, and I really wanted her to have some experience in South Africa as well as in Botswana, where she does a lot of her research.